afterthought, but as an inspiring story of what can be achieved when powers are held at a more local level. Because it truly is an interesting, slowly unfolding picture of a young democracy, with countless opportunities for positive change. Let's be the ones that tell this story to the rest of the UK. It is entirely possible to realise these opportunities too, I believe for our collective benefit. The National Assembly for Wales have said that there will be votes at 16, extended to local and assembly elections from 2021. This is something the Young Greens have campaigned for. We can absolutely make sure that we own this. At the moment, 20 Assembly members out of 60 are elected through the additional member system. This means that the National Assembly for Wales is more representative of the actual votes cast by the population in Wales than the Westminster government. We should be doing better under this system. Those seats should be a trialling ground for the party to understand the different kinds of challenges we would face under proportional representation. From working with other parties to gaining visibility under a system that voters are still getting their heads around. As Welsh Greens, we can do this. Together, we have to achieve it. Please take part. Like our Facebook page, like our Twitter page, share our campaigns and updates. And please don't forget that when you talk about the NHS, education or energy, you are in fact talking about these issues in England. Following the ballot in the summer, the Welsh Greens are now reimagining how we run our party. We're bringing a motion to our AGM in November to pay the Wales Green Party leader £5,000 a year. This is not much, but it has the potential to be a game changer for us. It is absolutely urgent that we enable the talent we have to commit to the roles that we have to offer. The holistic review notes the need for the leadership positions to be paid. This, or possibly the Green Party of England and Wales matching what the Greens in Wales can pay, is certainly going to be on my agenda going forward. I will also continue to campaign for the people's vote, work with other women to ensure Wales is a place where we can have a strong cross-party presence in politics, and push for renewable energy. Wales could be a world leader in tidal power, but the money is being thrown at nuclear instead. Yeah, I share that. We have opposed, and will continue to oppose, the plans to start work on what would be a new nuclear plant at Ulfa Newydd on Anglesey. There is also the ongoing saga of the proposed M4 extension. The Welsh Government claims this stretch of motorway will ease traffic congestion around where I live in Newport. It's only an hour away from here. This is not a small local issue, but one of the largest environmental threats in the UK. Emissions in Wales rose by 5% in 2016. Building more roads will only make this problem worse. It has been predicted that these plans will make the South Wales valleys, already some of the most deprived areas in the European Union, even poorer. What will also make Wales poorer is Brexit. By 2020, Wales will have benefited over £2 billion from the European structural funds. We simply don't know where this money is going to continue to come from. As a result, the National Assembly for Wales have been elected on promises they no longer have the funding to deliver. It also looks like Westminster will adopt some of the European powers. This risks undermining the Welsh devolution that we have been battling for over so many years. None of this was debated during the referendum campaign. All we have heard since is that Wales voted leave, but conference, Wales and England voted to leave by a very similar margin. And even though, in many ways, Wales has got more to lose, we're very much in the same boat. Since so much has changed, we must campaign together to get a people's vote for the people in Wales and across the UK. Whether or not the Wales Green Party takes another shot at independence in the future, it is crucial that we focus on the issues that unite us today. It is vital that we continue to do so with the wider party, building relationships across England and Wales so that we can share experience and skills and moments of success. We can make the Green Party a force for change in Wales. We can get a Green voice in the Senedd. We can make Wales truly fit for future generations. And we must work together to win. Diolch.
Hello, is this on? No. Good afternoon, conference. Hello. I'm Samir Jaraj, Hackney Green Party.
I'm Geraldine Coggins, Trafford Green Party.
So, we have several announcements before we move on to business. The first of which is that the last 15 minutes of this session will be used for one of the late motions ruled back into order on the SSC report yesterday, which is Chris Holt's motion on women's rights. The second announcement is that there will be hustings for committees at 6:30 tonight, SAC, Campaigns Committee and International Committee, and at 9 o'clock tomorrow for the other 4 committees. Nominations close at 6 p.m. today. We also have an announcement from SOC, which is that during the SOC... Oh. I wanted to say this.
Sorry.
It's fine. You do it.
During the SOC report yesterday, we proposed motion E07, which is an ennobling motion for a working group on revising the policy on refugees, asylum, migration for fast tracking. Enabling motions are just to discuss a policy area. Unexpectedly, a hand went up and the motion was removed from fast tracking. The hand came back later and apologised and said they thought that it was a different motion that was being asked for fast tracking. So we wanted to give conference the chance once again to accept this for fast tracking so that the working group could get on with looking at that area of policy. When the chair calls for a vote, if one hand goes up, then it isn't going to be fast-tracked. So, Samir.
Yes, so can we have a vote on fast-tracking motion E07, which is an enabling motion to review our migration policy.
Yeah, refugees, asylum and migration.
Migration asylum policy. So this is to review that whole area of policy. It is not creating any new area of policy. And if one person objects to this, then we will then discuss it in the section E part of the agenda. So, could I have an indication as to whether there are any objections on that motion going forwards?
There's one over there.
Okay, so that motion isn't fast-tracked. I quite like that in my notes it's got to the hand came back later, and I kind of was thinking Game of Thrones kind of stuff, but which is why I wanted to kind of say it. The purpose of this session is to discuss policy motions under B, C and E parts of the agenda. However, we have received a procedural motion from Caroline Lucas, which is to repurpose this plenary session in order to continue to discuss Section A. I've been reminded that we haven't done achievement yet. Do people want to do achievement, or are you happy for me to plough on? Okay, I'm hearing plough on. We have a procedural motion which is, rather than discuss B, C and E, that we repurpose this to focus on Section A, which is the continued discussion on the holistic review. If by virtue of our glorious quick decision making we make it through the holistic review and the rest is, then we will continue on with Section B, C and E. And similarly, we will still continue to discuss the emergency motion at the end of the session. Myself and Geraldine, if this motion passes, will relinquish the chair to Caroline Russell, although in my notes it says Caroline Allen. Someone else. What I will do now is ask Caroline to speak to her procedural motion, and then we will have a straight vote. We will have some points for and against, and then I have a point there. What's the...
Hello. I just want to point out that some of us have travelled a long way to come and speak on C03.
I feel this is a speech against. You need to do this later.
We cannot be here tomorrow.
You need to do that speech later, as in like after this speech here. I have a procedural card from Gen Law.
The standing orders, Gen Law, Bristol Green Party. The standing orders for the conduct of conference require there to be attunement.
Okay.
I would like us to have that, or at least take a vote.
Huh?
Or at least take a vote.
Okay. Okay. Attunement. Okay. We'll do it for 30 seconds on the advice of SOC. So attunement is a moment of quiet, attunement, contemplation. Think about what we're going to be discussing, and we will start now. Thank you. If Caroline Lucas can come to stand to speak to her procedural motion, please.
Thank you very much, Caroline Lucas, Brighton and Hove, Green Party. I know that this proposal will not make me popular in this room, and certainly not popular with people who've come away to be able to discuss the policy motions that are due in this session. And I want to say that I don't do it lightly. But I want to ask you, Conference, to allow us to continue the debate that we were starting this morning on the holistic review. There has been so much time and so much energy put into that review over 7 or 8 months before we got here. It was a review that was mandated by the last conference who asked this to happen. 7 or 8 hours also have been invested so far in this review, but my worry is that if we allow it to go until tomorrow, then tomorrow we still might not have time and we may very well risk quoracy. So I want to ask that we do it now. I know that policy motions are important, but conference, unless we have a more effective electoral force, unless we become that more effective electoral force, we can have all the policy we like in our manifestos, but unless we're in a better position to put it forward and win elections by becoming a leaner and meaner and fitter party, I would think, then that's not going to happen. So please, can you use this opportunity to look at ways in which we can change the way we structure ourselves, whether you're in favour of the Holistic Review or not. I think it's only fair to the huge amount of work that's been put into getting to us this far to be able to continue that process. So doing this from the floor of conference isn't ideal, but we didn't know when we voted on the timetable earlier that we would have spent so much time on the session this morning. So we are pretty much behind where we need to be to get this Holistic Review stuff finished. So I appeal to you, don't let us lose this once-in-a-generation opportunity to make sure that our party is as fit as it possibly can be for the challenges ahead.
Oh, so I've got a procedural card. Okay, I'll take it as a speech against.
First for speech against.
Yeah, and then.
So, Ronald Stewart, I'm standing here as Policy Development Coordinator, and I have the agreement of committee to say this. I would like conference to be clear about what we're giving up. This is the only plenary which is scheduled to have policy motions, and so if we give up this plenary to the Holistic Review, we will likely not hear any policy motions during this conference. I'd like you to know what that means. There is a B motion on the agenda which has taken years of process and development. There are 3 C motions on the agenda which have put in specific documentation to get accreditation to show that they have done sufficient work to build consensus on those motions. I believe there are 16 or 17 standard E policy motions. Those would involve 25 proposers, 25 motions, up around 300 proposers, thousands of person hours of work over the last 6 months to several years. That is what Caroline Lucas is asking us to give up. And I just wanted to make that clear that actually lots of people have come here to discuss policy, and we should save one plenary session for policy, and it should be this session so that it is not pushed off the end of the agenda.
Thank you. I have a procedural card.
And Andy, SOC, Andy wants to talk.
I have a SOC want to. Okay, SOC want to respond. Then I've got procedural card, and then after that.
As conference knows, it was SOC's preference to keep this session for these motions, but the procedural motion has been moved, and it's now a decision for conference to take. If this goes over to the Holistic Review now, what we are proposing is that tomorrow morning's session, Holistic Review may still be going on, but we'll begin with 20 minutes for the 2 late motions that were agreed to go in that session. We would then move on to the A motions, and then hopefully we will have finished with Holistic Review and we'll move on to the D motions. The afternoon plenary will begin with B01, followed by the 3 C motions to ensure those go through that have been accredited. SOC will then look at what the remainder of the programme looks like to decide what else we would suggest goes into that final session.
Okay, thank you. I have a procedural. No, not procedural. So I have a
speech against.
Do we have a speech in? I think we've taken speech against. We need a speech in favour of the motion. Person there.
David Flint, Enfield Green Party. Ronald speaks to my heart. I'm the proposer of a C motion of E05 of an amendment to B01. All that might be lost. But actually, I think we have to pay the price. We have to debate the Holistic Review. We know the governance structure is dysfunctional. That's why we had the Holistic Review. We must get this to an end, and we must do it at this conference. I support the pro.
Thank you. I'll take a speech against, and then I'm minded to move to a vote. See the person over there is...
Sarah Tabor, Derbyshire Green Party. I do appreciate that the holistic review is important, but time was assigned to it, and it's been the obfuscatory nature and the prevarication of those people on the holistic review, both for and against, who have prevented it being pursued to its completion in the time allotted. Now, there are various motions that are from liberation groups, from minority groups, from discriminated against groups, that will be passed by because of this, and those people, generally speaking, cannot attend the full conference. So what we're saying is that not only will you not, we not hear your motion, but you've got to start again from scratch. I've not heard anybody suggest any kind of idea of, well, maybe should we give the holistic review 30 minutes extra? Or should we put it at the end of the session rather than at the beginning and try and encourage everybody to get through the motions already on the agenda through more quickly? Because we want to get to the holistic review as well. All I've heard is piece of string length of time, holistic review, we'll see if there's time at the end. But often it's very hard to get something to this, through to this stage in the first place. Those motions should be given a chance to be heard.
Thank you. We've got a procedural motion over there, or a procedural card. I'm not sure if you can proceed.
Tom Franklin, York Green Party. I fear we're in danger of spending all the time deciding what to do. I propose we move straight to a vote.
Yep, that was my intention. Does conference want to move to a vote on this? Okay, I'm hearing more yes than no on that. So if you can vote with your purple cards, yes in favour of the motion, the procedural motion to discuss the holistic review in this session. Okay. And against?
There's time in there. Oh yeah, that's fine. It's clear.
So, I'm not getting a card vote on that. I think that clearly...
Clearly.
Yeah, that clearly, clearly passes.
Clearly passes.
It clearly passes. So, at this point, we will relinquish the... Yeah, we were looking at... So, procedural motion again from Jen.
Jen Law, Bristol Green Party. The structure of our party is very important, needs to be discussed, that's fine. But conference also serves as our AGM, and in the list of things that would be discussed in the morning session tomorrow, there was a bunch of late motions and various other things, and I think of the A motions that are left, our financial report is at least a third of the A motions to be heard, which I'm concerned will fall off of the agenda. I would like to bump that up the agenda to make sure that it is the first of the next A motions to be heard.
So
I'm proposing that the first A motion heard is the financial report, because that's actually something that we're required to do as part of our EGM.
Okay, I hear that, but at the point at which conference decided to move us back to point A, myself and Geraldine need to relinquish the chair over to Caroline Russell.
Okay, then can somebody else propose this motion, because then I'm going to be in the chair.
Caroline, here's your first crisis to deal with. I think you get us back for the emergency motion. So, see you in some time. Oh, I'm going to take my bag with me.
You've got one speaker slip. You've got one speaker slip there, Caroline, to start with. Good luck.
Lucas, just reminding you, we did 8A, didn't we? We've done 8A.
Voted on 8.
So we're now moving on to 9.
Yes.
Yes.
Because 8 fell.
Yes.
So there's no point moving 21 if 8 fell.
No.
Take 21 votes.
Yep. Do we have decision on how we're playing your procedural motion? What is the decision on Jen's procedural motion? Jen has just proposed a procedural motion, and that's the first thing I have to deal with as chair.
Yeah, and I will need to know.
And I need to know, probably not from Jen, what the answer is from SOC.
The answer from SOC is that we will take that vote
in the final session. Okay. Yeah.
That's the first item after CO3.
Okay.
But like that, like, did I propose a motion later or didn't I?
You can propose that as part of your procedure.
But now I'm in the chair.
She's now in the chair. Shall we just... Conference, we are just about to get started. Can I suggest that since we've had such a bumpy start, that we do actually have another 1 minute of attunement. Please, can someone close the doors? Is there someone by each of the doors, please? Thank you, and we now have 1 minute of attunement. Thank you, conference. We seem to have a procedural motion. Do we have a queue of procedural motions? Have we got a microphone for you, or can you come to the microphone?
Rob Shepherd, Brighton Hove Green Party. My procedural motion is to extend this session by an hour. I don't know how that would go down, but it seems to me it might be the only way to resolve it. Is it only 15? Okay, SOC says 15 minutes the maximum. That's still my proposal, and that we know now rather than trying to do that at 29 minutes past 6.
Can I just have a sense, just because I don't want to spend all our time working out how we're going to spend our time. Could I please have a show of hands for those who indicate that if we take this idea forward, would be broadly in favour of it? Can I just have a show of hands in the room if people are in favour of extending this session? And could I please have a show of hands against?
I would like to make a speech that I cannot. I have childcare responsibilities and can't do.
Okay, is there someone who could we have a problem that the co-chair has childcare responsibilities and is unable to extend the session. Is there someone else from SOC who can continue as co-chair when Jen has to leave? Thank you. Conference, we will extend this. You may have to get me a glass of water.
We will need to take we'll take a vote.
Oh, we need to take a vote, sorry. I have another procedural motion over there in the second row. Can we take the vote? Sorry, we need to take a vote on that procedural motion. So all those in favour of extending this session by an hour. Is it by an hour? By 15 minutes?
No, he proposed an hour.
He proposed an hour. Sorry, how long is it by?
Oh, okay.
We are proposing to extend this session by the maximum allowable by SOC standing orders, which is 15 minutes. So, can we have all those against? That motion carries. We are extending this session as much as we possibly can. Now, I gather we have another procedural motion.
I normally wouldn't vote. It was just the childcare responsibilities. I'm not going to do it.
Rugby Green Party. I'm very concerned about the way that the last session was run. I'm very concerned that people are talking about needing to speed through this process. I'm very worried about people needing to meet a certain deadline. It will not be the end of the world if we don't get through this. You have to not. We recruited tens of thousands of people under the old process. Now, last session, first of the problems with the voting.
Can I ask you, what is your procedural motion?
First, I am worried. I want to ask SOC to ensure that the democratic process of the party are upheld, that amendments aren't clumped together, that voting is done precisely and correctly, because if this is an important document, which people claim to be, it's got to be done properly. And I imagine people thinking that time is going to be against us, and then we're going to get shortchanged on democracy, and that's not acceptable.
I'm not sure that there is an actual procedural motion there, but I hear your point. I agree this morning was very complicated for us to get through, and I will do my best as chair to help us all through. So we are moving to Amendment 9, which in the paper copy is on page 34. I'm sorry I don't have the electronic copy numbers, but we're talking about Amendment 9. And could the proposer please come to the podium? Thank you. You have 2 minutes. But don't use them all if you don't have to.
No, I won't. Thank you, Chair. Ewan Jones, Central and South East Somerset. We and I are proposing this motion on the basis of threefold experience. One is I'm a career professional strategy consultant, including organisational design. 2, I'm a former chief executive of a multi-stakeholder co-op with a very similar structure to the Green Party. And 3, for the past 2.5 years, I've been the South West Green Party regional coordinator. I love the holistic review report. Like, almost all of it is brilliant. It makes it very clear that the party is run by the members. It is run through the conference. The council sets the strategy, and it creates the much needed extra body, which is an independent non-executive board that fulfills the legal obligations of the party in terms of employment of staff, in terms of reporting to the electoral organisations, and the long agreed but not delivered limited liability company. Now, what this amendment is doing is it's adding the clarity that council has the power to implement the wonderful strategy it develops by instructing the great staff team through action plans, which is the way we have been making it work in the regions with the field organiser network over the past 2 years under the improved system, which is delivering record numbers of councillors at every election we fight, and hopefully we'll do again this May. There is a risk, it may be a small risk in the structure, and I know we can't put up the diagram on page 39, but it would help that
20 seconds.
All direction goes through the board, which would make it very inefficient for an organisation of 5 people. So this amendment says, let's give the council the power to deliver the strategy and actually make green strategy real in the way that we're delivering electoral results on the ground through the field team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we please have the workshop report?
Chris Ogden, Manchester Green Party. As the proposer said, Amendment 9 proposed the whole holistic review for their work. There was concern from the proposer of Amendment 10 saying that the way that Amendment 9 is laid out may mean that if passed, Amendment 9 would remove what Amendment 10 would amend. SOC clarified that both could pass and A10 would be taken in spirit, so what is lost from if A9 is passed would continue in A10. HRC clarified that, that's the next section. Amendment 9 straw poll, 23 for and 19 against was the view in the room.
Thank you. Can we hear from someone a speech against the amendment? Thank you. You're there.
Yes, Mary Ann McFarlane, South Devon. This, unfortunately, reintroduces a confusion of accountabilities which exists right now. Our consultation with members and staff demonstrated a desire to be much clearer about decision-making, authority and line management, and we are very concerned about the high turnover of staff, some of which is due to that. We have tried in the holistic review to promote the concept of servant leadership, and service, not power, and I want to remind you of that. That's why we believe that the CEO should manage the staff and the chair of the board should manage the CEO. The board is accountable to the council and to the membership through regular reports and other means. The council should not therefore be instructing the staff team on plans or receiving reports direct from the staff. This should be done through the board. So I urge you to reject this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have other people wishing to speak? We have a speech over there. Yep.
Brigobridge Salisbury Green Party. This is absolutely crucial. The question is, are we creating a body to run the party by merging the current GPEX and GPRC and getting one body out of it and calling it the council, with a board that stands to one side and is a non-executive board that is there to stop the party going bankrupt or getting into legal trouble? Or are we replicating what we've got now on an even more larger and disastrous scale with a council that is a larger alternative to GPRC, just making endless strategy papers and having no power to do anything, and concentrating the actual decision making on even fewer shoulders on this new board? I believe the latter would be a huge mistake. The former would actually take this party forwards. So I plead to conference. I came to this conference wanting to back the constitutional review. If it goes the wrong way, it will make things worse and I will be converted by the debate into an opponent. I want you to keep me on side with the constitutional review by keeping the democracy in the party, in the council, not by putting all the power in the board and making the matters of too much concentrated decision making on too few shoulders, which is the problem that we've had with GPEX, creating that even worse in the new board.
Thank you. Do we have another speech against this amendment? At the back, halfway on the right-hand side. Yep.
Dennis Walker, South East Essex Green Party. What this amendment is proposing is essentially to make 45 people responsible for the staff, rather than having a limited management team. And that isn't really practicable.
Thank you. We've had two speeches in each direction. Are people ready to go to a vote? Yes, thank you. Conference, all those in favour of Amendment 9? And is someone from SOC checking the second room? Yes. Yep. So can we now, am I able to ask to see all those against? Yeah? All those against Amendment 9? Just need to wait for the second room.
They've closed off the public gallery as far as I'm aware, so then we can see everyone.
Okay, so are we confident to say that's fallen? Amendment 9 has fallen. Yep, thank you. We're now going to move to Amendment 10. Could we please have the proposer for Amendment 10? Thank you.
Brigobridge Salisbury Green Party. I hope the review is still salvageable. One of the things that made the old Green Party Council work and made GPEX not work is that the old Green Party Council back in the 1980s and into the early 90s worked through a system of committees, and on those committees people served for a number of years and they learnt the job in their first year. They achieved more in it in the second year, and in the third year they would be a committee convener. On GPEX we had people coming in on a vote into a position where they had no committee supporting them, where they were expected to do everything themselves, and for which they had no experience. Working through committees actually creates that experience and continuity within our governing mechanism and enables it to function and not be dysfunctional as GPEX has been. So I appeal to you to pass this amendment. The reason that it's standing committees and not just task and finish groups is that there are some responsibilities in the management of this party that go on from year to year. We have to keep managing the resources of the party, we have to keep campaigning, we have to keep internal communications and external communications going, we have to keep elections and policy development going. These are ongoing things, they are not task and finish jobs. And it is by having the committees that we build up the experience and the continuity that makes the system functional. So I please beg on you to pass this Amendment 10, which will ensure that that happens within the new council.
Thank you. Could we please have the workshop report for Amendment 10?
Hello, Chris Ogden, Manchester Green Party. Yep, as the proposer mentioned, the argument from the proposer was that smaller committees will help achieve party efficiency and maintain continuity more than the proposed task and finish group. HRC, that's not what we want, that's not what we want. The Holistic Review Commission, or a representative of, said that significant tasks could be performed with the task and finish group, such as the holistic review itself. If the committee is constitutionalised, they said, the committee is at risk of having to find something to do rather than allowing refocus once one task is finished, move on to the next one, etc. So the aim of the holistic review is to get the Constitution to be more nimble and nimble enough to be flexible in situations like that. The proposer said that Amendment 10 doesn't necessarily abolish task and finish groups, but where appropriate, but it does allow the continuity of ongoing tasks, as he's mentioned. Holistic Review replied that finance is covered as part of the board. Green Party members have told the Holistic Review that there are jumbled levels of responsibility. Continuity will exist, they stressed, through the council, through the board, through the political executive, and standing committees will stop people, and standing committees, or the abolishment of, would stop people owning an area of work. That way the council would share the work under their proposed system, and task and finish groups would provide a constant review of structure and process as opposed to the rather still version that we have under the existing committees.
Sorry, could we have the straw poll from
straw
the
poll,
workshop?
Sorry, yes. The straw poll, that was 29 for and 23 against.
Thank you. Can we please have a speaker against this amendment? Thank you.
Hello, Liz O'Neill from Trafford Green Party and the Holistic Review. Conference members told us that what we need to be is more flexible. Task and finish groups are that flexibility. Rather than people committing to serve for a term of office, they can work on a specific issue or a problem when they can and how they can. Briggs spoke beautifully about how we need to create experience and continuity, but what does that is working together. You don't need to be on the same committee, you need to work well together, which as Greens we can do.
Thank you very much. Do we have another speech?
Short hair and glasses.
Where? Sorry, where?
Short hair and glasses, hands up.
Short hair and glasses, hands up. Yes, yes. Sorry.
Carla Denny, Bristol Green Party. I hear the points made on both sides, and I agree that the standing committees or task and finish groups or whatever should be flexible. I don't see the description of the standing committee in here to prevent flexibility. It doesn't say that someone has to be a member of the same committee for the duration of their time on the council, for example. but I'm in favour of this amendment because task and finish groups have the word finish in them, which suggests that they don't run on. And in my experience in the Green Councillor group in Bristol, which has 11 councillors, is that we often find it does not make sense for all 11 of us to work on everything that our group is doing. We frequently break into groups of 3 or 4 to focus on specific areas, and then we bring them back to the group once we've decided what we're doing. Contrary to the last speech, we found that it really, really does help for people to have ownership of a specific issue, and that while everybody agrees something is a good idea, unless a single or a small group of people own it, it doesn't happen. So for that reason, I support this amendment.
Thank you. Do we have another speech against the amendment?
Who had their hand up first? I think Benali.
In the middle with, yes, glasses, yes.
Hello, Benali Handash, Islington Green Party. To me, it seems like we're quibbling over names and task and finish groups, like has been said earlier on in the day. If they need to go on, they need to go on, and there is no necessity that suddenly that we won't be doing any external comms because the word finish is in the title. I also think, I've been involved in the Green Party for a long time, and I've been involved in regional parties where there has to be an election group every month, but they're meeting and there's nothing to do. And I think the flexibility of empowering this council to allow people to run with projects, take them on, split into small groups, similarly to what was just described. I actually see that full-on list of six things as being overly regimented. I want this council to be empowered to look at the work of the Green Party, form the groups that need to take the projects forward, rather than being hampered by this quite rigid list of activities that I think misses quite a bit of the Green Party activity that possibly need to be covered. So I ask you to be more flexible about the word committee and embrace our new task and finish groups.
Thank you. Conference, mindful of time, we've had 2 speeches in each direction. Are we ready to go to a vote on this amendment? Thank you, Conference. Can we please have all those in favour of Amendment 10 show their cards? And can you see what's happening in the other room? Thank you. And all those against Amendment 10? From this room it clearly falls.
It also looks like it falls there too.
Yeah. Amendment 10 falls. Thank you, Conference. We now move over the page to Amendment 11, which is, there is 11A, which is on page 35. There is 11B on page 43. And, yeah, that's it. And the proposer is making their way to the microphone. Thank you.
Hello, Conference. Nate Higgins, Newham Green Party. Don't worry too much about 11A and 11B. They do the same thing in 2 different places. It's basically the same text. So for those of you who don't know, I sit on the Executive Committee of the Young Greens as the External Communications Officer. So I've seen how collaboration between the Young Greens and the main party works and what's required to make that work. In addition to that, I don't know if you know this, but the Holistic Review creates a body called the Political Executive. A lot of the responsibilities of that Political Executive are currently covered by a body, a subcommittee of GPEX known as Polcom. Polcom is a body that the co-chairs of the Young Greens currently sit on, and through that we've been able to be quite effective in some of the work that we do. This amendment ensures that they continue to be on the Political Executive. Last year in November, the Green Party, as members of the European Green Party, voted to agree that as a member of the European Green Party, Young Greens should be on every board of the member party. So we agreed back in November, as part of the European Green Party, in order to ensure that young voices are heard within their parties, that young people should be on every board in the party. I'm sat looking at a plenary here where I can see so many faces who have had so many opportunities given to them and have done incredible things because of the work that the Young Greens can do for them. For example, there was the People's Vote March earlier this year. I don't know how many of you were there.
Another 30 seconds.
Sorry?
Another 30 seconds.
Oh God, there's so many things. Earlier this year, that happened as a decision within the Young Greens originally, and through the co-chair's position on this body, we were able to get the main party to buy into this idea, and we had such a fantastic block at the People's Vote March, a fantastic Green block. In addition, the Young Greens co-chairs are currently party spokespeople. They are involved in the day-to-day politics of the Green Party. They will be responsible for the things that happen. They will be expected to answer for the things that our party does, especially around youth issues. We are the youngest party in the country.
You need, I'm afraid you've been cut off. You have overrun. Thank you. Can we have the workshop report, please, including the straw poll?
Yes, thank you. Chris Ogden, am I on? Have I been cut off? Okay. Chris Ogden, Manchester Green Party. Yeah, concerns were raised in the session about having a Young Green on GPEX, having a Young Green alone elected to the political executive, i.e. separately, not the co-chair, but just in general, someone who is a Young Green who is elected to the political executive wouldn't necessarily represent the Young Greens, while the co-chair would. However, it was argued back that the political executive covers people who hold political office in the party, such as councillors, the leaders, etc., not necessarily by identity, and the Young Greens would be the only ones that would. And it was also explained that as part of the holistic review as it currently stands, the Young Greens would have 5 people on the council. The straw poll for that was 31 for and 38 against.
Thank you. Do we have a speech against the amendment?
We do.
Yes, thank you.
Hello, Liz O'Neill for Trafford Green Party and the Commission again. The first thing I want to say is the Holistic Review Commission wants Young Greens to be on PECs, and the reason that we want them to be on there is because we want them to hold elected political office. When we spoke to members, one of the things that I was most taken aback by was how disempowered our political representatives feel. The people who represent us in the outside world by holding political office don't feel that they have a voice in how politics is done by the Green Party. PECs, the political executive, is the body to do that, and nobody is on there because they represent a group. They're on there because they hold an office in the outside world, and we want young people to hold that office. There is no reason that they wouldn't do so. Sorry, there's a card gone up, Chair.
I'll deal with that when you've finished your speech.
So Young Greens are not in any way excluded from any of the positions that with them come a position on PECs. So we want to see Green leaders, we want to see Green councillors, and that's the right way. Young Green leaders, Young Green councillors, and that's the way that they'll be represented on PECs. There's also a small number of directly elected ordinary members on that political executive in order to hold those who hold political office on our behalf to account. Again, we would love to see that populated by Young Greens. What this executive is for is not representation. The council, which is about representation, has gone through with 5 Young Green positions. We want a Young Green voice. It's just not this body.
Thank you. We have a procedural motion.
Yeah, point of information, there was a claim that none of the positions on the political executive are there by virtue of a position that they have internally, but because of a position that they have externally. That's not true. There's the Wales leader, there's the party leaders, there's the party deputy leader. The co-chairs of the Young Greens are the similar position, but for the Young Greens. So it would be in line with things like the Wales leader and so on, which do sit on that position.
Okay, so that's a point of information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want me to answer that, Chair?
Since
I don't have to. But okay.
I think it would. I think not. Okay, so we now need a speech in favour.
We've got a speaker slip for.
We've got a speaker slip.
Can we have Ed Fraser? Ed Fraser, please.
Thanks very much. Ed Fraser, Lambeth Green Party, and one of the proposers of this motion. So, Young Greens represent 1 in 4 of our members. I think that should be recognised. And that's as members who are going to be fighting climate change to the bitter end, we hope, that we should have a stake in that policy. But I wanted to address one of the points that Liz made around the composition of the political executive and those positions coming from openly elected positions. Of course, there was a desire to get Young Greens in elected office. I'll point your attention to Kai Taylor down here, who is in elected office as councillor. But that could be a lot of pressure on him. If we have a situation where the only way a Young Green can get on is by holding elected office or being leader or deputy leader of this party or leader of the Welsh party, that's a lot of pressure on young shoulders. We've got to be real. It's harder if you're under 30. There are just 3% of local councillors who are under 30. I can't think of that many members of Parliament who are under 30 years old. So practically, failing to include a Young Green will all but surely discriminate against those members who are going to be here for the longest, fighting the good fight. Thank you very much, and I hope you support this motion.
I have there's a procedural motion over here, and then there's another one at the back. Yes, we've got a third one at the front. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me? Here, right. I'm Simeon from Policy Development Committee. This is a point of information. The previous speaker talked about this committee deciding policy, but the political committee has never been the body that creates policy. That is done by members through this conference, and there is that under this holistic review, they say will be under the council. So just to clarify that we're not talking about creation of policy, that doesn't and wouldn't be.
Thank you, that's a useful point of information. We have another procedural motion at the very back, and then we have one at the front. So, yes, at the back.
Doug Rooksell, Staffelstone Green Party. It's a point of information. It's a very tedious, boring point of information, but the total number of young people in the party who are under 30 years old is 13% and not 1 in 4.
Thank you. And then we have the procedural motion here at the front.
Thanks. Caroline Lucas, Brighton and Hove Green Party. I just wanted to know whether a textual amendment would be acceptable in the very final bullet of the makeup of the political executive, where it would read 4 members elected directly by the membership, of whom at least 1 should represent the Young Greens.
I'll direct that to SLC, who I suspect will say no.
Okay, that's not a minor textual amendment. Okay. Have we had equal speeches for and against? No, we need one more.
We need one more against.
We need one more against. One more speech against the motion. We have yes, in the second row there.
My name is James Byrne from Solihull Green Party. In Solihull, I'm the leader of the opposition group of 11 councillors, and I have to echo completely what was said earlier. I feel quite emotional about this because I really feel, as the leader of the largest group of Green councillors in the country, just not listened to at all. As councillors, we are very busy. It's very hard for us to interact with all these councillors and everything else because regularly I have 4 evenings a week of meetings already as a councillor. I think there's been a misunderstanding about what this committee is for. Most people on this committee are external facing, and that's all they're doing is weekly reviewing what's happening that week, and as politicians how we should interact with that. As it says here, there are 4 members elected directly by the membership, and I think the problem we have here is if we're going to say, well, we need 1 from this group, 1 from that group, actually, where are Green women actually in this group? You know, where are all these groups? So I have lots of sympathy for this, but actually we need to be clear what this is for. It's not setting policy whatsoever. And my worry is, over the years, we've seen conference after conference of, let's add another person to this committee for this group, another one for this group. It gets bigger and bigger and more unwieldy. Holistic review, it needs to enable us to be more fleet of foot, to make quicker decisions. So I have to say, I'm absolutely in favour of keeping this committee small, mainly focused on people who have that front-facing job in the party, who deal with the media on most days. And as I said, there are 4 people who are ready. So just as I would oppose having any interest group on this committee, I would oppose this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'm minded to move to a vote, but we have one more procedural motion.
Hi, Nate Higgins, Newham Green Party. It's a point of information. The Young Greens co-chairs are externally facing people. They are, in our constitution, the people who are supposed to represent us to the media, and they are recognised by the main party as the spokespeople for youth issues. So they are externally facing people. I agree that this committee should be the people who are externally facing people, but the Young Green co-chairs are.
Hold on, this is turning into a speech. You've made your point. Okay, conference, I am minded to move to a vote. Does that, you're ready? Thank you. So we are voting on Amendment 11, which is and I would like to see all those in favour of the amendment. Do we need to count or? Okay, can we see all those against the amendment?
We're going to need to go to count.
I think this is going to need to be counted. Have we got clickers?
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. We're trying to get through this as fast as we can.
In the meantime, can I encourage anybody who doesn't identify as male to feel welcome to speak up? At the moment, we have a 3-to-1 proportion of, well, perceived male speakers versus non-male. So please, feel welcome to speak up.
Thank you. Are we ready to count? No, not yet. Yes. Are you organised? I think we're nearly there. And I think we're ready in the other room. Ready, we're good to go. So, could we please have all those in favour of Amendment 11?
That's why they're not on the team together anymore. Divisions. So we've got Simeon.
Sorry? 35 next door. $118.
Including or excluding the 35?
Plus 35. Okay. Okay, you can put your hands down. Thank you, everybody. And once our counters are back in position with their clickers at 0. Okay, everyone, if you can keep quiet to let the counters concentrate, that's really helpful. All those against Amendment 11. You can put your hands down. Thank you. I'm sorry. Getting distracted by the maths. Sorry? 160 in this room, so that means we're at 222. The amendment falls. If you want the numbers, it was 153 in favour of the amendment and 222 against. Okay, so we are now moving to Amendment 12, which is on page 35. Could the proposer for Amendment 12 come forward? Thank you. And you'll have 2 minutes once you're at the podium.
Amendment 12 continues on page 44 as well.
Yes, this amendment is split in 2 parts. It's 12A and 12B. 12B is on page 44 and the... Sorry.
Yeah. Shall I start? Yeah. I'm Kirsty Jones, Nottingham Green Party. Unfortunately, Sabrina's not here to propose this. So basically, these amendments do the same thing. It's to propose that a councillor is selected from our elected councillors to be a representative on the council. The current proposal in the holistic review is that it will be a representative from AGC. Any member can pay to join AGC. This means that someone who has brought the Target to Win How to Win Elections manual could be selected to represent councillors without being an elected councillor themselves. This would reduce that representation and the usefulness of having a councillor on the council. And therefore, please support this amendment.
Thank you. Could we please have the workshop report with the straw poll?
Chris Hogan, Manchester Green Party. Yep, as has been stated, the proposer said that not all AGC members are councillors. However, an AGC member did clarify that all councillors are on the AGC. The straw poll was 21 for and 19 against.
Thank you. Do we have anyone who would like to speak against? Thank you.
Natalie Bennett, Sheffield Green Party and Holistic Review. A couple of points. As the workshop report has said, every Green councillor is a member of AGC. And I think if we can imagine, for example, we have increasing numbers of people who've been councillors for many years. I think the record's 20, isn't it? Something like that. Now, AGC, people who are prospective councillors, are people who are working to be councillors, and the councillors themselves. Maybe they would choose as their representative someone who's been a councillor for 20 years and has stepped down and then has the time to actually be their representative, someone who's had lots of experience. So I think AGC is the representative body. I think we should go with AGC as the recognised represented body. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another speech in favour of this amendment? I see some with a white shirt. Yes, and sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Just before you speak, we have a procedural card at the back. Do you mind if we take the procedural card?
Emma Carter, Stafford and Stone Green Party. It's a point of information. Every councillor has the right to be a member of the AGC, but not every councillor is a member of the AGC. I personally know councillors who are not members, so it's just really important that we're clear. Every councillor has the right to be a member, but isn't actually a member.
Is that, could I have, this came up in the workshop yesterday, and I'll ask someone from the AGC just to give clarification, because I think that may not be correct.
Yeah, as a point of information, there are different levels of membership of the AGC. As the basic membership, every single elected councillor of the Green Party of England and Wales is automatically a member of the AGC. The level of service they receive depends on if they pay subs or not, but they are all absolutely members and constituted members.
Thank you. Okay, so do we now have a speech in... Yes, we do, sorry.
Albans Green Party. I would like to echo what James has said. The whole essence of this body is to have people who are actively engaged in engaging with the public on behalf of the whole party, not a group within it. And so even though one might have retired councillors, they're not in the hurly-burly of the current events, and that's absolutely key to this committee. It's responding to current events. So the party is full of people who've retired and can devote their time to things on committees. That's what we're trying to avoid. So I would say that would be inappropriate. And also, not every member of the AGC, of course, is an elected councillor, so it should be clarified. And that's a simple. The motion is very clear and simple.
Sorry, was that was a speech against this? No, in favour. Sorry, thank you. Sorry. I'm sorry, I was dealing with something else, so I just wanted to check that it was in favour. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak against this amendment?
There's a procedural card.
Sorry, we have
and then the speaker.
Sorry, we have a procedural card here at the front and another one at the back. We'll take the one at the front, which I saw first.
Okay.
And then the one at the back.
And then there's a speaker.
No, can you please use the mic? You're not you didn't show a procedural card. Sorry, the procedural card at the back then.
Hello, Richard Kingdom, Brighton, Green Party. I don't know if it's the right card, but the question was, what is the AGC? And also a request that when we have acronyms, if the first time you use the acronym, you could tell us what the acronym stands for.
Thank you. Very good point. The Association of Green Councillors. Could I have another speech? Oh,
this person
yes.
Has been, yeah.
Thank you. In the middle there.
Denise Craghill, a councillor in York and a member of the AGC. I'd just like to support what Natalie said. I think we should trust the AGC to nominate their own representative. I'm not sure if Elise is in the room at the moment, but the chair of the AGC for 1 or 2 years at least, I think, has been someone who isn't an elected councillor, but just because she isn't an elected councillor at the moment doesn't mean she's not still in the hurly-burly and doing everything she possibly can to be re-elected. So she would be obviously an entirely appropriate person to represent elected councillors. So I really do think there's a bit of a misunderstanding there. I think this is fine as it is. The AGC, as a body of councillors, is perfectly capable of nominating the person that they think will best represent them.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I'm very aware that we've had no speeches from the, for or against from the other room. If people in the other room can quickly get to the microphones, if you want to speak, you do need to come. If you're in the other room, you need to come up to your microphones so that we can actually see you waiting there, because otherwise we can't call you. So if there is someone who would like to speak for the amendment and someone who would like to speak against the amendment from the other room, this is your opportunity. There's no one there at the moment. People in the room, if you are clear that no one is going to take this opportunity, could you just wave to us so that we know?
There's no one moving in there.
No one moving.
No, there's somebody... I see an inclusion card from the other room, so I would really like a mic runner to get to the inclusion card, because it could be a mobility issue.
Okay, we have an inclusion card in the other room, and someone... No, we do have someone coming to the microphone. Okay, we have an inclusion card. Yes, you are on. You should have a microphone.
Hello, my name's Marina Cherm. I'm very new to all this, and I'm from North Shropshire in Shrewsbury. I held my hand up earlier to say for, but actually my point was exactly the same as the speaker before, which was in the clue of the word representative, and I think we need to trust the agency.
I'm sorry, this is, if you hold up an inclusion card, it means it's an inclusion issue?
Yeah, so my point was I wasn't being excluded, and lots of people in this room were saying that I should go and speak, and I was making the point that what I was going to say had already been said, so it wasn't an inclusion issue for me, for those people who were saying it was.
Okay. Marvellous. We've heard a voice from the other room. Okay. Is there anyone else from the other room? No, I hope the other room now feels included. I am very minded to move us to a vote. Thank you. So, will everyone... sorry? We have another procedural motion. We don't have to take procedural motion.
Not a procedural motion, just a point of information which might or might not be useful, but going back to the words one representative of local councillors or one representative of the AGC, in neither case does it say...
Sorry, this is another speech, and
no,
I think...
No, it's a point of information concerning that wording, because in neither case does that exclude someone being a representative of councillors who is not themselves a councillor, if the councillors so decide.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to vote now on Amendment 12. So will everyone in favour of Amendment 12 please show their hands? Amendment 12, which is on page 35. Thank you. And will everyone who is against Amendment 12 please show their hands? That clearly falls. That clearly falls. Thank you, Conference. We now move to Amendment 13, which is on page 36 and is about oversight of staff. Could we please have someone to propose this motion?
Sorry, Conference, it's me again, Brig Ubridge from Salisbury Green Party. The words I'd like to draw your attention to are, in the original sentence it says that this is the legal responsibilities of the board as already agreed. What was agreed when we agreed to set up a board which would incorporate limited liability for this party was that it would have oversight of legal matters, not that it would be a board that was running the party. Our democratic structures need to run the party, and the board, as has been agreed, should have a limited role, limited to making sure that the party doesn't get into legal trouble or go bankrupt. That's why we wanted a limited liability structure, and that's why we agreed it. This amendment makes it clear that that is the role of the board. It is not the role of the board to run the party. And this comes again to the crucial difference between whether we are actually producing a council to run the party or whether we are putting all the running of the party into this very narrow board which will have too much to do, too much responsibility, and not be democratic. The idea that we have to have a top-down pyramidical management structure or the staff won't know what to do is nonsense. It's perfectly possible for the council, even this overlarge council, to have a management structure that is very clear for the staff, and that can run through the chairs of that council. So that's a red herring. The real question is,
can you please wind up
is the
now?
board running the party, or is the board at arm's length from running the party and keeping it from getting into legal trouble?
Thank you. Could we please have a workshop report?
Chris Ogden, Manchester Green Party. Yeah, it was raised that this amendment would stress legal oversight from the board as opposed to the wider considerations that's suggested in the report. It was noted that the board would be more appropriate to oversee staff rather than the council, because it was seen that 45 people overseeing the management of the staff rather than just legal responsibility would be too many and impractical. The vote was 5-4 and 30 against.
Thank you. Do we have a speech against this amendment?
Yes, Marianne McFarlane, South Devon Party. I'm not going to go through all the arguments I made against Amendment 9, but I just want to remind you that this seeks to limit the authority of the board over the staff and place some accountability with the council and some with the board. And as with A9, this blurs the line again between staff and members, leaving uncertainty about decisions between the board and the council. And it's actually fundamental to the model that we've described in the holistic review. It dismantles the model we've created. We've created that through consultation, consensus, extensive discussion and debate, And I think this will cause dissatisfaction and confusion, and I urge you to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Admirably brief. Now, I just want to remind people in the second room that if you would like to be called to speak, you or someone on your behalf needs to go to the microphone at the front and wave. We can see you from where we're chairing, and but we need you to do that, otherwise we don't know you want to speak. Do we have anyone who would like to speak in... is that procedural? Okay, thank you. You can go for both.
Carla Denny, Bristol Green Party. Point of information first. I would have brought this up in the workshop, but I didn't have a chance, so I spoke to members of the Holistic Review Committee afterwards. This is relevant to this amendment. There is an error in the diagram on page 39. The arrow the blue arrow for accountability that runs between board and staff team is pointing in the wrong direction. The board is not accountable to the staff, as you would hope. The staff would be accountable to the board. Another thing which is a bit more of a matter of opinion rather than a printing error, but the members of the group that I spoke to agreed that there really ought to be a workflow arrow in that diagram as well, which is missing. And they agreed that that workflow arrow would run between the board and the staff team. The board would be giving the staff work. This is all relevant because this amendment more or less says that the council should be giving the staff work as well as generally steering things. And now we're moving out of point of information into my point against the amendment, which is that this amendment effectively tries to achieve the same thing as Amendment 10 did by different means. And as we've already voted number 10 down, I think we should vote this one down too. Thanks.
Thank you. So have we been both ways, Sorry, I've lost track. How many speeches have we gone in each direction?
One of each.
We've had one of each. So, conference, are you ready to move to a vote? Yes, thank you. So, can we please have everyone in both rooms in favour of Amendment 13, please show. Thank you. And everyone against Amendment 13. Amendment 13 clearly falls. We're now moving to Amendment 14. Could the proposer please come and propose?
Hi, Benedict Albrecht, Brighton and Hove Green Party. Should also say I have a bit of an interest in this item because I'm currently on disciplinary committee as the representative for conference. So I proposed this amendment jointly with a couple of members of the Holistic Review, and then I've since had conversations with others that suggest they're broadly supportive. I should start off by saying I'm not claiming that the current procedures are perfect, but they're broadly fair and workable, and it's something that we can apply to current situations. Last conference we devoted a lot of time to discussing the current standing orders to party discipline. I'm sure a lot of us can remember the fairly gruelling sessions on that. So I think what's proposed in the Holistic Review largely gets rid of all of that and all the work that was done on that 6 months ago. And the solutions that are proposed in here don't really necessarily reflect the discussion that we had on that. The proposals that we've got in front of us in the main report largely don't give us a structure that would really be workable, and so we'd end up with something where we can't actually deal with any disciplinary matters in the party. That stuff is mostly dealt with in Part B, 14B, which is on page 50 of the printed agenda, or I think it's very bottom of page 90 in the PDF. So I think really we need to pass this amendment so that we have a functioning process. It's the current process, but we can still do work over the coming period to improve that. There's quite a number of detailed issues that I think are problematic in the proposals, but I'm aware we're short on time, so I won't go through all of those. I think generally it shows that there was a slight lack of consultation with a lot of us that are very aware of the disciplinary processes, and it was slightly a side issue that didn't really come up in the workshops. Since the disciplinary process is largely decoupled from a lot of the other governance structures, it doesn't need to be decided now. We can put it to one side, we can go through very detailed changes and really consult on those carefully since it's such a sensitive area. I think there's lots of interesting ideas that are proposed, but they're not fully formed, so we need to really come back to them in more detail later. There's one technical note in here that because of the way appeals and suspensions are currently dealt with by GPRC, there's a small note in there to say that that would pass on to any kind of successor body to GPRC, so the council or whatever comes afterwards. And I think there's one thing that's a really good suggestion here of producing some easy-to-read guidance on how the process works. So I've just said I think we should retain that, and that should be taken forward by the current committee.
I've been very lenient with you on time.
Sorry.
Could you please wind up?
So just to say, I think we should make that guidance, but we don't necessarily need any of this to pass to be able to do that. It's something the disciplinary committee should do. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, this, I understand, the Holistic Review would like to say, this is something that is supported by the Holistic Review Commission. Can I just let you, before we hear the workshop report, would you just like to just say, or should they come after the workshop report?
Probably should.
Probably should. Workshop report, go for it. Thank you.
I won't say my name again, you know it by now. Yeah, most of the discussion around the workshop report echoes what has been just said by the proposer, that adopting this would leave us without functioning procedures, and it is something we can consult on later. Especially the Q&A sessions that are proposed in the Holistic Review about informing people about our disciplinary procedures, that can be done without this section of the review. A straw poll said that 33 people in the room were for the amendment and 3 people were against it.
Okay, and following on from that straw poll where 33 people in the workshop were in favour of this amendment and just 3 against, I'm just going to call someone from the Holistic Review because they see this as a friendly amendment. And we...
Thanks, Lucas, for that
all singing and dancing in here. Go for it.
Hi, conference. Kieran Turner, Calderdale Party, and I'll try and be brief. The review were very much aware that we hadn't spent as much time as we would like on disciplinary and dispute resolution, the time that it deserves. We are also aware of changes made quite recently that the people involved feel are still being tested a bit. Obviously, we've always said the consultation goes on at every phase. Even once this is passed, the consultation will be continuing as the transition group implements stuff. So we think this is great. We'd support this amendment.
Now, I would like to add to that, just so that people are aware, that if this amendment passes, it deletes the text that would amend the Amendment 22 and Amendment 3F seeks to change. So those 2 would fall automatically because that text would no longer be there.
Do people need to be told what those 2 are, so they understand that?
3F's already fallen. Apologies. Yes.
Fine. Okay. So can we go to? Oh. Can we go to a vote? Yes. Okay. Amendment. So what we're looking at here is Amendment 14. All those in favour of Amendment 14. Thank you. And all those against? Thank you. Amendment 14 clearly passes. So we now move to Amendment 15. Do we have the proposer for Amendment 15 in the room? Do we have a proposer for Amendment 15? That's Hannah Clare, or Benedict, or Kirsty, or Samuel, or Doug?
I'll do it because I'm nearby. Benedict Philbrook, Brighton Hove Green Party N. So I wasn't planning to propose this one, but I will. So this is really dealing with what happens after, if we pass the holistic review, if the ballot passes. The proposal is that we would instruct and pay, crucially, lawyers to draft the new constitution. We think given the expertise in the party on constitutions, as is shown through this process, and also the financial position of the party, we think it would be much better for volunteers to write the new constitution. We can see from a lot of the material that the Holistic Review have said, such as aspects around SOC that wouldn't change, that there is sufficient expertise in the party to do this, and so we think it would be good to call on that and get the executive to recruit some volunteers to take forward this really important body of work.
Thank you. Could we please have the workshop report?
Hi there. This was probably the most prolonged debate of the workshop, so I'll keep this one as brief as possible. Yeah, so the suggestion is that the Constitution can be formed by volunteers, as was the case previously, under the argument that it will save us money. One person argued that the Constitution needs to be bulletproof as we grow. Currently, GPECs are legally liable if we are sued. and the comparison was made to selling a house. You know, we wouldn't sell a house without getting it surveyed and checked, and it shouldn't be the case for our party either. Someone suggested whether it could be written by volunteers and then checked by lawyers afterwards, as lawyers can be overcautious by training, so caution was advised there. Someone said that lawyers would make sure that it's fair and democratic. The quality of the volunteers drafting the legislation, sorry, not just legislation, drafting it, might vary widely, so they could create a flawed constitution or draw it up in their own interests. A lawyer said that hiring a lawyer to check the document would definitely not save time, because they'd because they would want free rein to do whatever they wanted. Someone else agreed it would save money. Someone stressed to trust the members. Okay. SOC clarified that articles of association. Oh God, that's a bit complicated. The Constitution is internal, so that only covers the party and its members. And the Articles of Association cover legal responsibility. And someone asked clarification about the interrelationship between those bodies. The straw poll was 13 for and 20 against.
Thank you very much. Do we have a speech against Amendment 15?
Sorry, can I just add just a note that, as far as I understand, if 15 passes, amendments or all of Basket 2 automatically falls. But I have been made aware that potentially the proposer of the amendments in the basket is intending to withdraw or not propose that motion anyway. So could I seek some confirmation of that before, so that people know what the effect of?
Do we have?
I'm looking for Adrian. Is he?
Do we have the proposer of Basket 2, which is Amendments 16 and 17?
Are you intending to withdraw this, or are you intending to propose it? Just confirm that. You're intending to withdraw.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So if this motion passes, then 16 and 17 automatically fall.
But the proposer of 16 and 17 is not intending to propose those, so that would then mean... So the effect wouldn't really have...
Okay. So could we please have a speech against Amendment 15? Thank you. Go for it.
Hello again, conference. Kieran Turner, Calderdale Party. The rapporteur has said actually a great deal of what you need to hear. I won't waste too much of your time. Just to say, if we get lawyers to do this in the first instance, that will help us get the safe, secure document, which is referred to, the Constitution is referred to in the Articles of Association. It does matter as a legal document. If we get one that's strong, that's clear, I'd love it to get a Plain English Campaign Award. You know, let's make it something we can use as a tool, not something that blocks us. Then, let's be very clear, it comes back to us. The lawyers don't get any power here. They're writing something which comes back to conference, and it will take a 2/3 majority of us to approve it. We can also amend it and tweak it. It's our document. The argument is, if we do it the way that this amendment suggests, and we write it, and we send it to the lawyers, I promise you it's going to take, and I've written constitutions for universities, so I've got some experience of this. This will go back and forth many conferences before we get one that the lawyers will approve. Let's get those guys to put in the framework, and I'm really sorry, I always use guys as a gender-neutral word, apologies. Let's get those people to do the whole thing, then we will get it right with our experience on top of their framework.
Thank you. I am aware that we have a speaker in the second room who I imagine is wanting to make a speech in favour of the motion, but first we have a procedural card at the back. Could you please quickly make your point?
Emma Carter, Stafford and Stone. Just on a procedural point, just because the party would use volunteers, that does not mean that a volunteer is not suitably professionally qualified to undertake the work. It will have save us money and ensure that the people putting it together are members. It's just information. It seems to imply lawyers are professionally qualified.
No, this is not a point. This is a speech. Can we let the...
I don't necessarily have an opinion either way. It's just people talking about lawyers and talking about volunteers as if they're mutually exclusive, but they're actually not.
Okay, thank you. You've made your point. So we have a speaker in the other room. Would you like to give your name and local party? And you are speaking in favour of this amendment, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct. It's Claire Lorraine Phipps, Lewisham Green Party. I hope you can hear me okay. I just want to say my support for this amendment. I want to clarify, and people that know me will know that I take very seriously the idea that we would pass off work that should be done by paid people onto volunteers, but that is not the case of what this is suggesting. People are experts in writing constitutions in our party, as Doug said, and we know very well, and they want to give their time to the party in this way. If we pass this amendment, it does not mean that those people will not be able to consult lawyers if they need to do so. We consult lawyers all the time for the disciplinary process that we now have. We got legal opinion on that. So it doesn't mean that just because we would have volunteers writing it, that we would not seek legal opinion if that was needed.
Thank you very much. Do we have another speech against the motion? Yes, thank you.
Martina Weitsch, York Green Party and Holistic Review Commission. In response to this last point, if we have lawyers drawing up these agreements, this constitution, on our behalf, as a job we give them, they have professional indemnity insurance. If we have a bunch of volunteers who may have legal expertise doing it, their professional indemnity insurance will not cover that work. That is a risk.
Thank you. We have a procedural card in the middle here.
This is a request for information. I want some clarity. We are going to follow the limited liability process, which means we will be creating an articles for that. What's the relationship between that and the lawyers drawing up this constitution? Because it sort of feels as though there's two different sets of articles being created, which I can't see. Is it the same lawyers who are going to do the limited liability thing as well? And are they going to create one coherent constitution for the organisation, and then the things which are in the current constitution, which are not to do with the company, could then be drawn up into an agreement between the members in addition?
Thank you. Could someone from the Holistic Review please respond?
Keep talking. Okay. You keep talking, it comes on. Liz O'Neill, Trafford Green Party and the Holistic Review. Our intention is absolutely that it will be the same firm, and what we're doing is extending their contract so that it all works together. The fine detail of exactly how that works is a task for the transition group. There's a lot of detail that we could not possibly work out in the time that we've had and until we heard the view of conference, and that kind of stuff goes to the transition group. But absolutely our intention is that the same group of people sort all this legal stuff out together and coherently.
Okay, are we ready to move to a vote? Yes. We don't have to take a procedural motion.
Adrian's the one who is withdrawing his motion.
Okay, we have a procedural motion from...
card, at least,
Sorry, this is the person related to the next two amendments. Could you very quickly...
Hi, this is Adrian Sparrow from Luton and Bevershire Green Party. This is a point of information. Motion D01 is hopefully going to come before conference before we go away. That is to give us permission to make any minor amendments to the Constitution as required so that we can incorporate as a limited liability company. The M&A of the limited liability company will be as neutral as we possibly can and will refer to the Constitution as the primary controlling document. So actually these things are quite separate. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to now move to a vote on Amendment 15. And can I please have all those in favour of Amendment 15 show your cards? Thank you. And all those against Amendment 15? Amendment 15 clearly falls. Now, am I right in understanding now that Basket 2 has fallen? sorry, shush. We have very little time ahead of us. We need to keep moving ourselves forward. Can I please just have an understanding from SOC? I've understood these fell if 15 passed, but is that... Oh, 15 fell? I'm sorry, I'm tired, it's the end of the day. So, Amendment 16, could we please have the proposer? But he doesn't want... They've... Okay. Lucas, can you...
He has to propose.
This isn't... Thanks. Lucas North, NPO Green Party and SOC representative. As SOC, I formally move that we discuss this motion. We have to... SOC have to propose that we discuss it. You have it noted that the proposer does not want it discussed or voted on.
Okay, and what do we do? So I can take a speech against what has just been said, or we can move to a vote. Okay, so we're now voting. We're voting now on 16, and if 16 falls, 17 falls as well. So all those in favour of 16? Thank you. All those against 16? Thank you. 16 and 17 have fallen. Amendment 18. Could I please have the proposer... Oh, thank you. Could I please have the proposer for Amendment 18? Thank you.
Hello,
You're there.
Hello, conference. I am proposing Amendment 18. I don't know how you feel about this, the holistic review motion, I think it's A11, after 4 hours of plenary. But when it was first published, I found this very confusing in the way that it's presented, both as a report of the work that the holistic review has done, and also as a motion with consequential action. And part of the motivation here is to give conference the option to separate those two things, which I think should have been done anyway. I'm not sure why this kind of mishmash motion has been allowed. And so this amendment basically says we accept the report, but we don't want to take this to a referendum at this stage. We think it needs more work. We have got 22 amendments to this motion, which I don't feel have been fully discussed and incorporated. Given the speed that we're rushing through them. And so this amendment gives conference the option, if it wants, to say we accept the report, but we don't take any consequential action. That's all.
Thank you. Could I please have the workshop report?
Chris Ogden, Manchester Green Party. It was noted the holistic review is praised for its engagement with members, and the amendment it's noted that the amendment thanks them for that. It was noted that 22 amendments were raised from the holistic review in a week, suggesting, as President mentioned, that more time might be needed. However, someone argued that the review isn't perfect, but we will be able to change it down the line. The amendments are positive. It was noted that holistic review Commission agrees with some of the amendments, but stressed that now is the time we either should agree or disagree with the review and not kick it into the long grass as this amendment would. It shouldn't be discussed piecemeal, it was argued. It said that we should discuss the report thoroughly. This says a recipe, not a menu, it says. A recipe for future success. The amendment is equivalent to nicely voting the entire report down. It was said that the report would make the party more agile. It would stop us giving people unpaid jobs. It was said that where is the evidence for saying that a 45-person council would burn people? People were not convinced with the amendment overall. 7 people voted for it and 27 voted against.
Thank you. Can we have a speech against Amendment 18? Thank you.
In the other room.
No, oh.
That's a speech against. Oh, right.
We'll take this one, and then we'll go to the second room.
Thank you, Chair. Natalie Bennett, Sheffield Green Party and Holistic Review Commission. I appreciate that this amendment acknowledges the work of the Commission. I want to also acknowledge the work of the thousands of people who inputted into it, and I want to acknowledge the work that this conference has put into this. We have to, I believe, go forward and change. And as Julia said at the start of this, we're asking the people out there, the people of Britain, the people of the world, to embrace massive changes in the way the system works. We want system change. And what we have here is something that we collectively, democratically have worked on to create that change. So please, and I will remind you that of course what we're doing now is putting this out to a referendum of all of our members. That's the next step in this process. There could not be anything more democratic. Please let's proceed with this democratic process. Thank you.
We have a procedural point.
Norwich Green Party. I thought that was a great speech. I think it's 6:10. I propose a procedural motion. We move to a vote on this amendment.
We can't.
Do I have a seconder?
Can't be taken.
You can. It's up to the Chair's discretion.
No.
It is.
Not till we've had apparently 2 speakers in each direction. Can we very quickly, the speech in the other room, is that a speech against or for?
It's against.
Against. So we need one more speech in favour of the motion, very quickly, if someone can do it. Is that... Okay, someone at the back. Yes, you.
Hi. Casper Drake, Ceredigion Green Party. This report has obviously had a lot of work gone into it, but I think it's dangerously centralising. And the system we have at the moment works quite adequately.
Okay, is that your speech? Thank you.
That's my speech.
Thank you very much. Admirably brief. Can we please move to a speech against the motion in the other room, person in the pale top? Yes. That's you? Yes? Your mic is live, I hope.
Thank you very much. Much like what Natalie just said, I believe that... Sorry. Oh, sorry, Tina Rothery, Blackpool and Fyle, Green Party. I believe that we should be voting against this because much like most of the amendments that have gone through, we can see there is a really strong feeling that we want to get on with this holistic review, you know, try it and try and do something new and strong and brave and bold and be the change we wish to see. Thank you.
Thank you, conference. We're going to move to a vote now. Can all those in favour, sorry, I've just moved on already, can all those in favour of Amendment 18 show their cards? And all those against Amendment 18? Amendment 18 clearly falls.
There's a point of order from the other room.
We have a point of order from the other room. Can you please come to the front as quickly as you can? Every minute counts.
We actually now need to recruit the chair as well.
We do, don't we?
Sorry, I was just, Claire, Lorraine Phipps, Lewisham Green Party. I was just saying that I didn't hear 2 speeches each way then, but maybe I counted.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Claire Phipps, Lewisham Green Party. I didn't hear 2 speeches each way. I thought that there was going to be another speech for the amendment then.
It went both.
I'm
in both
sorry,
directions.
wrong order, my bad.
I think this is the point at which because this session has been extended, so it has been extended to past, but I believe there was an urgent motion. There was a late motion that is meant to be being held for the last 15 minutes of this session. So Samir and his co-chair need to come back to hear the late motion. I'm very sorry, everyone. Thank you, conference. We have got through some... Oh, okay, sorry. We have a suggestion that we continue with this now for this next 15 minutes, and the late motion is taken tomorrow afternoon.
Can we have an indicative vote?
Can we have an indicative show? People in favour of doing that? I think we're going to go for that. So yes, please, the next...
I need to...
Sorry? And I'm sorry. Could we please see against doing this? Is that... thank you. Okay, go for it, please. Which I need to leave.
Hi, Nate Higgins, New Green Party.
Sorry, we have a procedural point.
Sorry, I need to excuse myself and invite somebody else into the chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much.
I've completely lost my place. What are we on? Nate Higgins here, 19. Okay, excellent.
Chair, SOC told us a minor fib earlier. There's nothing in the standing orders for conduct of conference that says it can only be a 15-minute extension. And on that basis, I'm actually suggesting that we actually extend it until we have finished this motion and taken the urgent motion we were going to take.
Reason for 15 minutes
Yeah.
we need to leave the room.
What happened? Is there something happening afterwards?
This at 6:30.
What is it? Apparently, the reason that we have to finish at 6:30 is that there is something else in this room. Can anyone from SOC confirm?
Yes.
Yes, can you...
So it's this.
Hi, Tom Milburn, Conference Committee. We need to have a change around in this room ready for the award ceremony this evening. We cannot go any further than 15 minutes. Otherwise, everything else rolls on and it just won't work.
We can still have a vote, right? We can still have a vote. That's just something we need to consider.
If this goes on, we will incur additional costs for technicians.
Okay, that is, if there are additional costs for technicians, I'm just, let's just get on and do what we can do in the time we have.
Okay. Hi, Nate.
Very quickly, tell us your point.
I wonder if it's possible, Alan Mossman, Stroud, I wonder if it's possible to vote on the rest of the holistic proposal en bloc now and let it go ahead.
It's not possible.
I expect it isn't, but if SOC want to think about that while this next amendment is being proposed, I'm grateful to hear from. It's not allowed, apparently. Please, will you propose Amendment 19?
Yes. Hi, Nate Higgins, Newham Green Party. I appreciate you've heard a lot from me, so I'm going to be quick. This amendment is just one to allow job shares to continue. We're a party that has taken pride in our culture of job sharing. We've taken the government to court to allow us to do job sharing before. There are people in our party that rely on job shares in order to have the same level of access to our democratic process as any other member. I find it extraordinarily exclusionary that we might remove these job shares. We have our co-leaders of the party who are in a job share. Technically, I think this is constitutionally in a grey area because they're in one of the positions that says that's not allowed to be job shared, and they are a job share themselves. I think it's really ill-advised that we remove it. The Holistic Review's argument is that we won't need them because the jobs aren't taxing enough. Can we at least see that that's the case? Can we pass this with job shares, and if they later become evident that they're not necessary, can we do it then? Because I'm really worried that we're assuming that they're not going to be taxing enough without the evidence for that. People tend to do as much work as they can, and therefore for individuals with access needs to be able to do the same amount of work as other people, and therefore to win selections for these internal elections, they'll need the job share process. So I really do urge you to keep the job shares.
Thank you very much, and admirably brief. If we could please have a brief workshop report and the straw poll.
Chris Ogden, Manchester Green Party. If you have a cup, take a sip now. Banning job shares doesn't stop roles being burdensome. It was argued it helps reduce that. It was argued that job shares, keeping job shares help make the party more accessible. Equally, it was suggested that the ethos of the report is that it's trying to give people the ability to contribute what they can when they can, rather than being burdened with roles they might not be able to necessarily take on. The only responsibility, it was said, is to attend 4 meetings a year, which was argued is not that onerous a task. The straw poll was 14 in favour, 15 against.
It's very close. We have a procedural point at the back. Are you ready to speak? please, everyone, just try to minimise waiting time. Get yourselves organised to speak near. Go for it.
Hi, sorry, it's just a point of information that co-leadership and job share are not the same thing. The co-leaders are not in a job share.
Thank you, that's a useful point. Can we please have a speech against?
Yeah. Liz O'Neill, Trafford Green Party, and from the Commission. I know this is counterintuitive, Council, but our proposals do not undermine job shares for jobs, and that does include our leadership roles. What they do is aim higher with true flexibility in the representative roles in the new bodies. The minimum commitment for a role on council will be to attend 4 meetings a year. Some members of council will do more, much more, because they can. However, when our governance bodies come together, all voices must be equal. Nobody should be forced to either find a job share partner or own half a voice because they have less time available than others.
Thank you. We have if this is a procedural point, make it brief.
There was the claim that the job share, co-leaders aren't in a job share. They are. That it's written in the Constitution to be a job share.
Okay, we will now move on. We've had a speech in favour, a speech against. Do we have another speech in favour? We have. I'm sorry, I've just pointed to. Yes, white shirt. Thank you. Losing the ability to speak.
Yes, quite. I never do, unfortunately. Jill Mills, St Albans Green Party. I would urge conference, please don't vote this one down due to voting fatigue. I have the greatest of respect for the Holistic Review group. However, they are not correct on their interpretation of the role and potential of job sharing. There is a huge amount of evidence, I know because I've done research into it, that job sharing is the one intervention that increases the number of women who take up positions, both voluntary and at higher levels. It enables inexperienced people to couple up with people with more experience to gain experience, and that favours both underrepresented and younger people. It is in line with party policy. We are currently campaigning for job shares for MPs. That's 638 people round a table. You know, if we're campaigning for that, we would look ridiculous if we didn't have job shares on a council. I would like to say also that it is absolutely not true that job shares lead to lack of continuity or more voices round the table. Job shares behave as one. There are lots of guidance from eminent business bodies to support how they can be managed. And the last thing to say is there is no such thing as a job that is not too big. And 4 meetings a year are currently what GPRC do, and they nearly kill everybody.
Okay, thank you. And do we have, before we move to a vote, we need to have one more speech against this motion. Do we have someone to speak? Yes?
Me, if I can.
Yes?
Hello. Heather Mack, Bristol Green Party. I'm currently in a part-time job share with the Green Party. It made it accessible for me to do this job. Yet, I agree with what I've heard here, that this role would be accessible for the people who would want to go for it without a job share, and I have faith in the holistic review in that, so I'm against this amendment.
Thank you. Conference, I'm minded to move to a vote. Are we ready to move to a vote? All those in favour of... sorry, which amendment? What? Thank you so much. I'd moved to the next one so that I knew where I was. All those in favour of Amendment 19. I suspect we may need to count. Oh, we may not. And all those against? That clearly passes. Amendment 19 has passed. Okay, conference, let's see if we can do one more. Amendment 20, which is about a weekly meeting of PECs. Do we have the proposer? Proposer of Amendment 20, Kieran Turner? Yes?
Kieran Turner, Colvesdale Party. We kept listening after publishing the report. This one is simply that it was pointed out to us that we could be recommending PECS meets at Christmas. Silly. Please support it. It's just to make it slightly more practical for them to have the kind of quantity of meetings intended in a sensible calendar.
Thank you very much. Could we have the workshop report, please?
Vote.
Okay. If we're happy to go for a vote, yes? Okay. All those in favour of Amendment 20? Marvellous. And all those against Amendment 20? Excellent. You matched the workshop, by the way. So that amendment passes. And now we are on to number... We're now... Thank you very much. We're now on Amendment 21 on page 47. Could you please propose this motion?
Kieran Turner, Calderdale Green Party. We heard an awful lot of feeling that International Committee was super important, so we want to specify it definitely gets the Task and Finish Group immediately to look at how best to carry forward its vital work.
Thank you. Would you like to go to a vote on this, or would people like to hear the workshop report briefly? Vote. Conference. All those in favour of Amendment 21, show your hands. And all those against? Amendment 21 clearly passes. Amendment 22 has fallen. Good grief. Do we have a proposer for Amendment 2? 22, sorry. No, I was told it had fallen.
22.
If 40... Sorry.
22's fallen.
22 fell, yeah. Okay. So Amendment 2.
Okay, there's an announcement from the ERO at the end. Yes.
Okay, can we take... I mean, we're down to 4 minutes, 3 minutes. We Conference. Conference, we're going to have a go at Amendment 2, but if it becomes clear that it needs an awful lot of discussion, we're clearly not going to deal with it in this period of time that we have left. But do we have a proposer for Amendment 2? Sorry. Yeah.
Hello, Conference. Lucas North Enfield Green Party and SOC representative. As was explained by the co-chair at the time, when we passed Amendment 14, it deleted the section of text containing Amendment 22. Therefore, Amendment 22 fell by default because the entire text that it amended and the text it wanted to insert was deleted at that point.
But we have two. I think, Conference, we have 2 minutes left. The next amendment is Amendment 2, which is it's big. It's threaded through the whole of this thing. I think to try and do it in 2 minutes. Can we have a vote on whether you want? Can you show your hands with a straw poll on whether you want to tackle Amendment 2 in the time left? You want to vote on Amendment 2? Oh, it does have to be proposed, and we have to hear the workshop. We can't just go... Sorry?
This will go to tomorrow, so we need to go to announcements.
I'm sorry, we are out of time. We are going to go to the... Sorry? So we need to make the announcements. Yeah. The next... You don't... I don't... Sorry, what announcements do I need to make? There will be a hustings for committees at 6:30 tonight, SOC Campaigns Committee and International Committee, and at 9 o'clock tomorrow for the other 4 committees. Nominations closed at 6 today. Is there anything else?
Yeah.
The ERO needs to say something. This, yeah. The ERO?
Yeah, I think you've done it anyway. But
John Nelson Walsh, Hull and East Riding Green Party and the electoral returning officer. In view of the way things are running so late...
Has he got the mic?
Sorry?
Has he got the mic?
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Because everything's running so late, I've decided to cancel this evening's hustings, and I've got a second room for tomorrow morning, and the two sets of hustings will run in parallel.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we have a procedural point here.
Can I just ask the SOC to tell us when we will be proceeding with the rest of the holistic review, please? Just a point of information.
Is this working? Okay. What we proposed at the start of this session is still, I think, going to be the case. We will hear the two late motions that are timetabled for tomorrow morning in the first 20 minutes. It will be a time-limited discussion. It's up to SOC to set the rules for late motions, and we can do that. We will then carry on with the holistic review with Amendment 2 and then the vote on the substantive motion.
Thank you.
I have one as well.
So, okay,
SOC.
yes.
Hello, conference. The text of all late motions is available outside from the SOC desk. That includes the two late motions ruled back in order yesterday and the two late motions that were in order prior to conference. So you can pick those up, and those will all be debated tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have another? No. Okay. And the final thing to tell you is that the next thing happening in here is the Brexit and Trade panel, which is a public event, not the awards ceremony, which is later. So the constraint on time is because of this imminent item. Thank you.
And just one final point about this next session, Tom Urban Conference Committee, because everything